So, okay, for tonight, is there the question about parting from the four attachment? And in my preparation, I noticed that it is actually a very nice program, because we started with mindfulness and how to deal with impermanence in relationships. And that last week we were talking about impermanence itself, especially the 12 links of dependent origination. Sometimes I mentioned interdependent origination, but it should be dependent origination. So this is about impermanence. And now the topic is about the four, parting from the four attachments, which is parting from samsara. And the last two questions are about dharma dhatu, duality or non-duality, the ultimate nature of the mind. So we would, and the method of initiations and empowerments. And these two topics are next week treated. And that would be a wonderful and logical finishing of the questions. They are related in a certain sequence. And we finish with the purity of mind and the blessings of the empowerments. So everything is connected. So for tonight, for the third time, it is parting from the four attachment, and I really got very nervous about this topic, because in traditionally, or not traditionally, for high lamas to explain the parting from the four attachments, it always proved to be 1 month of teachings and meditations. And I received the parting from the four attachments from Dzongsar Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche, Lama Choedak Rinpoche from Australia. And these were 10 days, 10 full days with this parting from the four attachment and the explanation and meditations. And I've 1 hour. So how to bring this vast wisdom and knowledge of all existence in the lamas back to my very limited understanding of it. And also later I received that 2 times from His Holiness Sakya Trichen, parting from the four attachments. So I will try my best to transfer a little bit of it to you. I used this book I will send you the title. It is Parting from the Four Attachments from Chogye Trichen Rinpoche. And this is, in my opinion, the best book you can, if you like to study and have feeling and warmth of what by the teacher itself and by the meaning of how he is explaining this topic. He's such a kind teacher. Maybe you have met him, Chogye Trichen Rinpoche. I've met him in Kathmandu and also visited his body when it was in Tuktam, if I remember correctly, where the body is sitting in the position of death, but not still death. So the body has died, but it is still, the mind or something like that is still present in the body. So he was sitting in that position. It was very impressive. So Chogye Trichen, he was head of the Tsarpa lineage, sub-lineage of the Sakya order in Tibetan Buddhism. And he lived from 1920 to 2007. And he was a lineage holder. It meant that he had responsibility for many empowerments and many reading transmissions and many pith instructions and many empowerment transmission. So he was the one holding all these transmissions as his responsibility, but also to practice all the transmission and to practice all the sadhana meditations and to practice and to transfer all the empowerments, because he was the only one as a holder of this transmission who could transmit them to other teachers, for instance, like His Holiness Dalai Lama or His Holiness Sakya Trichen. So it is said that he was sleeping 1 hour a day, because the rest of the day he practiced the transmissions, the meditations, the teachings, the empowerments, and the instructions for himself and transmitting them to others. And now there are two Chogye Trichen, his followers, the 26 and the 27. So now they have two persons, because they are not able to have these responsibilities of empowerment and transmission and in one person. They could not do it. So now there are two Chogye Trichens. So Chogye Trichen, he gave the explanation on the parting from the four attachment in 1969, 1998, 1999, 2000, and 2001. Not every time again, but sequentially. So I will try my best in 1 hour. So in this book, he is explaining the verses of the four attachments, which are composed by, what is his name? Yetsun Traprak Gyaltsen. Yetsun Traprak Gyaltsen. He composed the parting of the four attachments in wonderful poetic verses. And His Eminence Chogye Trichen is explaining this in his book. And it is really full of loving kindness and warm-heartedness and wisdom. So, and then you can check my mistakes. So the transference or the origin of the parting from the four attachments are received by Sachen Kunga Nyingpo. And Sachen Kunga Nyingpo, I also sent you the picture also of Chogye Trichen. Sachen Kunga Nyingpo, he was the first of the 5 great masters who founded the Sakya order of Tibetan Buddhism. And he lived from 1092 till 1073. And he was 8 when his father died. So he was too young, like also His Holiness Sakya Trichen. He was too young to bear the responsibility of this, to be the master of the Sakya order. So his nephew, Sachen Kunga Nyingpo, Kon Khyentse Gyalpo, advised him to go in retreat and to enhance his wisdom. Because when we enhance our wisdom, then all our other qualities increase. And if you are a ruler of a Sakya order, for instance, then he needed to expand his wisdom. And during this retreat, the retreat was on Manjushri. I sent you also this picture. I think you know Manjushri, the bodhisattva with the sword that is cutting through all the ignorance. It's a sword of wisdom. And in the right hand and in the left hand is the Prajnaparamita text. And this text is solely about wisdom. So anyway, Bodhisattva Manjushri appeared in the small room where Sachen Kunga Nyingpo was in retreat and meditating on the meaning of wisdom by means of Manjushri, transcendental, original wisdom. And in this meeting, Bodhisattva Manjushri explained the 4 lines to Sachen Kunga Nyingpo, and Sachen Kunga Nyingpo immediately understood that these teachings these 4 lines encompass the whole teaching and the whole path of the Buddha Dharma, from suffering to enlightenment. So this is, in brief, the meaning of the 4 lines. And since then, of course, they are transferred throughout the ages by all the lineage holders up till now. And maybe you know that His Holiness Sakya Trichen is considered to be an emanation of Manjushri. As His Holiness Dalai Lama is considered to be an emanation of Avalokiteshvara, of compassion, is His Holiness Sakya Trichen considered to be an emanation of Manjushri, all throughout the ages from lineage holder to lineage holder. And still they are so very, very modest. So this is the connection with the teachers and the authentic sources and the authentic teachers, as I mentioned last week, that we always have to check and consider are the teachers and are the sources authentic. And of course, with these teachers, Sachen Kunga Nyingpo and Manjushri and Chogye Trichen, His Holiness Dalai Lama and His Holiness Sakya Trichen, we don't even have to check. But I like to explain to you that this is the source of the teaching, where it comes from. Okay. Yeah. And of course, this gives much more significance and depth and heartfelt feelings to the 4 lines, but also to the teachers that have dedicated their lives to transfer it to all of us. So this is the warmth and never being left alone by our teachers, not throughout the ages, up till now, in every moment of our lives. So there are 4 lines. The first line, maybe you know, is if you're attached to this life, you are not a person of Dharma. So if you are attached to this life, you are not a person of Dharma. If you are attached to cyclic existence, you do not have renunciation. If you are attached to cyclic existence, you do not have renunciation. If you are attached to your own purpose, you do not have bodhicitta. If you are attached to your own purpose, you do not have bodhicitta. And if grasping arises, you do not have the view. If grasping arises, you do not have the view. So in brief, or not in brief, but if you're attached to this life, and then it means basically the topic there is impermanence and death and dying. So that's why it was nice to have this 12 links of dependent origination last week for the connection. If you're attached to cyclic assistance, it means that it is basically attached to suffering and the causes of suffering. So being attached to cyclic existence is caused by grasping and attachment and ignorance to suffering. And if you're attached to your own purpose, it means that there is no way, no motivation whatsoever for compassion and loving compassion. So this is about the selfish attitude, to be attached to your own purpose. And if grasping arises, you do not have the view, then it is related to ignorance or lack of wisdom, but that's the same, more or less. So it is impermanence, it is suffering, it is selfishness, and ignorance. And these are the 4 basic problems of why we are and remain in samsara and are not able to enter into nirvana and not entering into the city of enlightenment, which is the Buddha nature and the Buddha qualities. So this is maybe easy to remember, that this is the path and the essence of the four lines. And now in the text, these 4 lines are treated in 2 ways. One is the problem, and the other is being liberated from the problems. Right? So I will try to follow that explanation. So if you are attached to this life, you are not a person of Dharma, and it means that we are denying impermanence, that we do not realize the truth of impermanence, and this causes that we will constantly create a rebirth, like the 12 links of dependent origination. And it means that all our actions of body, speech, and mind are contaminated by attachment. That is the problem. And what happens, it is also the problem, it fails to qualify ourselves as a genuine spiritual practitioner. So denying or being ignorant of impermanence, one will not receive the benefits, but we will continue and circle around from one life and to another life. And it means that if you are studying Dharma, and if you are meditating, and if you are practicing the Dharma, but there is no clue of impermanence, then it means that we just practice for this life and for worldly gains of study and meditation and practice. Because there is no idea of practicing Buddha Dharma and meditating for all the lives to come. And it also means that we are not related to the suffering of others, but that we come later. So here we should check to what content we are aware of impermanence, and into what content we are trying to grasp and cling and create all kinds of formations in this life based on on ignorance of impermanence. So we should check by ourselves if the impact of knowing impermanence or not knowing impermanence. Because it seems, especially maybe when we are practicing Buddha Dharma, it seems that we are aware of impermanence. But in our attitude and in our ways of speaking and in our ways of thinking and in our ways of relating to others, it is very easily to discover that there is attachment involved in our communication to others and to our own benefits and to our own ways of liberating oneself from suffering. So what we need, Chogye Trichen His Eminence Chogye Trichen is saying that we need to have self-observation. So this is the positive side. We have to have self-observation of one's motivations and one's attachments. And this awakens wisdom, and this awakens intelligence. So check your authenticity. Heb je nog wat thee, Meta? Check your authenticity and check, we have to check, not you only, but me as well. We have to check our authenticity and if our motives are artificial, meaning dominated by worldly influences, or is it authentic, meaning based on the knowledge and the awareness of impermanence. Thank you. And so this is one way, and the other way is that it is basically very simple to discover that there is permanence all over. I think we all know that our body sooner or later will die, but is already on the path to dying and on the path of falling apart. Sooner or later, and then we can, of course, use Botox or something like that, but still the body is growing old and losing its functions. So impermanence is already there. And we also can consider it in our daily life, in our relationships. Last week we were talking, the first meeting we were talking about that relationships begin and that they end or that they change. So when we observe our behavior, our identity, our values, our opinions, then we will notice that they have changed in relationship to our past. And relationships have changed, and opinions have changed, possessions have changed, where we live have changed. So there is always change, in short, and that is also in the world outside. We see, what we notice is constant change, and what we cannot find is something permanent, but it's unchanging. And even it is not sure that we will find a precious human rebirth in next life, and it's not granted, because it depends on our motivations and if our deeds are wholesome or beneficial or not. It depends on how we have changed in our life for the better or for worse. And this all is bringing us into the next life. And we've been talking about it this last week. And finally, everything, the whole world, be it outside or inside of us, there's only one continuous presence, and that is dependent origination. We've talked about it last week. There is cause and effect, and there is cause and effect, and the effect is the cause for something new, and then all the causes and all effects, they are coming together, are interwoven, and that's all over the universe. Okay? This is even unimaginable, how there is constant cause and effect, and thus constant change. So this is the proof of the philosophy and the proof in our daily life when we are looking around and when we are aware that the only thing that we really can discover as something continuously, it is constant change or constant dependent origination. Dependent origination is the only truth that makes sense. So this is, and what helps us in this is that we take refuge, or that we have the bodhisattva vow, or that we, in the first meeting, the wonderful power of the Eightfold Path. We have the 10 virtuous deeds, we have the paramitas. So these were also already mentioned. So this practice of refuge and the vows for one day or for one's whole life, or the ordination vow, the bodhisattva vow, the tantric vows, the Eightfold Path, the 10 virtuous deeds, the paramitas. When we practice these very wholesome qualities and beneficial deeds of body, speech, and mind, then this is the way to counteract the ignorance of the ignorance of death and dying and impermanence. This we can also relate to the wheel of samsara. I will not go into that with ignorance and pride and jealousy and hatred and aversion causes karma. This causes us catapulting in the 6 realms, and this is also caused by the 12 links of dependent origination. So this is also constant change, constant arising and disappearing. So these are a few examples of that there is proof all over of if you are attached to this life, then we do not understand the Dharma. Okay? Because the Dharma is nothing else. Again and again, all the explaining the real meaning of life. And if you are attached to all these impermanence and constant change, then we do not understand the Dharma. That's why it's called, if you are attached to this life, you are not a person of Dharma. Okay? And I remember from His Holiness Janavatra, I was with him in the teaching last year, and he said, my greatest fear as a Lama is that my students don't understand the Dharma. His father and his brother and all Lamas are constantly explaining the Dharma out of compassion and wisdom. And he said, the greatest fear is that I'm explaining and that the listeners do not understand or do not study or do not practice or do not contemplate. They listen, find it very beautiful, and then it's over. This was his greatest fear. Okay. So now the next one is if you're attached to cyclic existence, you do not have renunciation. If you're attached to cyclic existence, you do not have renunciation. So here the essence is the 3 kinds of suffering. Cyclic existence is also caused by the previous explanation on the first line, but cyclic existence here is specifically explained by not having renunciation. And Chogye Trichen here is relating it to 3 kinds of suffering. I think you are aware of them. It is the suffering of change. So the first one is the suffering of suffering. That is the obvious suffering that we experience in our daily life when we have toothache, or we feel a little bit embarrassed, or we are hungry, or we feel sick, or we are abandoned by someone, left alone. Well, this is the obvious suffering that we immediately are conscious of and aware of. Right? There's nothing hidden in that. It's the painful confrontation with suffering that I'm immediately aware of. So bumping against the door is suffering, obvious suffering. Right? But being left alone is also obvious suffering, because immediately I diagnose it and I'm aware of it is painful, it is suffering. And the second kind of suffering is the suffering of change. I just explained this. And this is this suffering of change is actually the nature of samsara. It is actually the quality of our life in samsara, in this cyclic existence, is that it is by nature unsatisfactory. Because of constant change, and because of we are longing and attached to happiness, and we know from the change that there will always be suffering and unsatisfactoriness, because when I'm happy, when I feel happy with myself, with family, with friends, with loved ones, with my job, with the country where I live. But this is all subject to change. So I try to grasp and to attach to happiness, but because of constant change, the happiness will also change and disappear and come back later in another form. So the nature of cyclic existence is unsatisfactory. And for this, it is very simple to prove it. We only have to observe our inner world and our outer world with relationship to unsatisfactoriness and the change of happiness and the appearing of suffering. So we can reflect on our own life. There's no certainty whatsoever, and there's no end to examples. So here it is advised to meditate on impermanence and to be constantly aware of impermanence. And this does not have to depress us. It is, let's say, to be constantly aware and to meditate on it, on being attached to cyclic existence and not having renunciation. Diagnosis may be not so very upraising, maybe depressing, but that is the wrong way of meditating and the wrong way of reflection and analyzing, because what the benefit of this is that we are aware and that we arise wisdom and develop wisdom. And when we develop wisdom, then wisdom is the path to liberation. So understanding impermanence by meditating and by reflecting on ourselves and the world around us and awareness of it, this will help us to realize the true nature of mind. It will help us to realize the true nature of existence, and it will help us to realize the true nature of mind. And of consequence of that, we will not be caught up in all kinds of situations and in all kinds of feelings and in all kinds of mental formations. So we will not be caught up in emotions that are in effect suffering, feelings that in fact suffering, and mental formations. And by wisdom, contemplation and meditation and observing our reality, makes crystal clear that there is a very beautiful, pure nature of mind with very pure qualities. And this awareness and these qualities liberates us from suffering. And it liberates us from the shortcomings of samsara, like craving and so on. And we know from the 6 realms of samsara, because of our emotions, we can, for a certain time, we can be in hell. Certain kinds of suffering in our life can feel like an experience of hell. And this is, for instance, the consequence of craving and frustrating and being not in control of our emotions, because we are confronted with attachment and we cannot cope with that. And then we will periodically or momentarily be, for instance, in the hell world. And also craving. And the hungry ghost in the Preta realm, the cause of it is craving and grasping and formations, and never being satisfied. So here there's examples of the 6 realms of samsara, caused by not understanding the dangers and the suffering of attachment, and grasping and craving and formations. So also for this, understanding means that the attachment will slowly, and all the consequences of the attachment will slowly fade away. And another example is that the suffering, that is in the last suffering, the third one, is the suffering of conditioned phenomena. Maybe you know the suffering of conditioned phenomena. On one hand, it is explained by the alaya vijnana, the storehouse consciousness, where all our behavioral patterns of reaction on situations caused by feelings and by mental formations, that all these patterns are conditioned and are stored in our subconsciousness, in our alaya vijnana. It is silent, it's not moving, but as soon as a similar situation arises in our daily life, then this specific behavior of this specific this pattern of behavior arises, comes into being, because the situation outside of us triggers the hidden conditioning in our alaya vijnana. So this is one way of explaining the suffering of conditioned phenomena. And the other way of explaining by His Eminence is that if we observe our life, then there is a tremendous attachment and ignorance to our daily program. And I don't mean per se that I have an egg on Wednesday and an egg on Sunday, like me. This is also a certain pattern, but that is not harmful. But I'm a little bit attached to it, and I'm aware of it. So it's a very simple example, but the greatest impact is of conditioned phenomena in ourselves is that we don't find any rest in our daily life. There is never a moment of calmness, of relaxing or abiding, or, to put it simple, doing nothing. We are 24 hours a day, or without the night, let's say 16 hours a day when we are conscious of our daily life. We are always on the run, always doing something, always finishing one thing and beginning the next. This we are haunted by not being able to stop our mental and emotional and physical activities. I think this you can easily recognize in your life. And that's why in the West, the mindfulness, the ordinary mindfulness, so to speak, where we were talking about in the first meeting, people are yearning for peace, people are yearning for happiness, people are yearning for calmness, people are yearning for rest, people are yearning for breathing in and breathing out and laying somewhere in the woods or on the grass and doing nothing. So we are haunted by constant activities of body, and we don't know how to find a rest, and we don't know how to create rest, and we don't know how to stop this endless continuation of activities in the body, the speech, and the mind, constantly. And the smartphone, of course, is a good example. You see many people can't even put their smartphone aside. But this is only an example of what the character is of our life. We are not able to put aside doing something. We are distracted. And of course, many of these activities are important. But here it is said, it goes on 1,000 times a day, emotions, feelings, actions, impressions, reaction, doing, planning, canceling. So this is another meaning of the suffering of conditioned phenomena. And the way to help us in this, to get out, not get out of it, but to slow down in this body, this monkey mind, this sick monkey mind, not sick, but causes disturbances in our mind, is that we have to make ourselves confident and familiar with cause and result. And that we make ourselves familiar with that the actual nature of the mind, the luminous emptiness and the qualities of the Buddha nature. This is the nature of our mind. If we make ourselves confident and familiar with it, then it is a tremendous counterforce to the problem of not having any attachment, not having renunciation, sorry. And finally, to consider, to reflect, to study, to meditate on the emptiness of phenomena. The emptiness of phenomena of body, speech, and mind, feelings, mental formations, possessions, body, relationships, jobs. If we try to understand the emptiness of every phenomena arising, being there, and disappearing, then this is a tremendous, precious counterforce to the suffering of continuous activity of body, speech, and mind. This will effectively change the patterns of actions. So it is calm abiding in being busy. It is calm abiding in just sitting. It is calm abiding in doing nothing. It is calm abiding in not reacting or not acting. It's calm abiding in the busy mind. So calm abiding in the sense of being aware, taking an inner position of knowing that it is coming and going, that it is in fact emptiness, that it is a tremendous power of cause and effect that I'm experiencing. So it is calm abiding in the hectic activities in our daily lives of body, speech, and mind. So this is more or less like retreating from these endless activities all day long, being aware, become confident of it, become familiar with cause and result, meditate and contemplate and study on the nature of the mind and the emptiness of the coming and the going of all phenomena, outside and inside. And this will change the patterns of our actions of word and thought, and also will slowly bring us beyond the sorrow of samsara. And it means that the afflictive emotions will slowly fade away. And it will, so it is in fact detach ourselves from our busy daily life in body, speech, and mind. And then samsara will lose its power and nirvana will arise and the Buddha nature will manifest itself, and the Buddha qualities. So this is also the profound awareness, the profound mindfulness, but here on emptiness and constant change and awareness of the busy mind. And being aware of its existence and being aware slowly that we can change by calm abiding and reflecting and observing everything that is happening and that I'm doing. Observing it slowly liberates us. And what happens, in fact, is that we create non-attachment to our daily life. And not in the sense that it is not important, but it is in the sense that we have no control over it. Is this okay? A little bit understandable? So relax sit in a comfortable chair, listen to the birds, switch off your smartphone, say no to a new appointment if possible, calm down. This is just simple daily practice. So, okay. Now the third line is, let me see. If you're attached to your own purpose, you do not have bodhicitta. If you are attached to your own purpose, you do not have bodhicitta. And I guess that you are all Mahayana Buddhists. So that means that you have taken the vow of the bodhisattva. And the bodhisattva is the same as bodhicitta. Bodhi means enlightened mind, and citta is the mind that wants to attain enlightenment, not for oneself alone, but for all beings in this universe, through till the end of time. So that means that if I'm attached to my own purpose, then I'm not a bodhisattva, and I'm not practicing bodhicitta. Because my own purpose means that I am, whatever I'm doing and thinking and communicating, if it is attached to my own benefit, insulting someone else, or giving something to someone else, and being attached to that this person is very grateful to me, this is not a real giving. This is the giving of, or the benevolence attached to my own interest. How would he or she be grateful to me? It is just a simple example. So bodhicitta means not being attached to one's own interest, but to the interest of others. And this, of course, is very difficult, but it is difficult because we have great attachment to our own purpose. But this great attachment to our own purpose is not liberating ourselves, but is holding us in samsara. And it is making ourselves unhappy because we will always be frustrated in other people. If we have expectations of others, these most of the time will not come true, or they will change. So the attachment to my own well-being is also at the same time a cause of suffering and of frustration and pain. So trying to be a good person, like the bodhicitta, means that I'm trying to balance, especially when we are on the path of progress out of samsara, that we try to balance what is beneficial for me and at the same time beneficial for someone else. So the words that I speak, even when I'm angry, the words that I speak can have an angry nature, but below that, or inside, my aim can be, or my purpose can be, to create harmony. So on one hand, is a shortcoming of becoming angry and wanting to insult someone else. So then it is trying to be beneficial for myself alone. So if I'm aware of that, then I can change my behavior and to find words and opinions and connection from my benevolence, my aim of being peaceful and creating harmony for both of us, and using words also for the benefit of others, for someone else. Even in anger, this is possible. Because then we act without attachment to our own purpose. So we can check all our body actions of body, speech, and mind. What is my intention? What is my motivation? Is it mainly, dominantly related to my own interest, or is it also related to the interest of others? And this is the true bodhicitta. It will change our motivation and it will change our priorities. And from the suffering point of view, when we act and we are attached to our own purpose, His Eminence said that in essence, we leave other beings alone. When I act for my own purpose, it means that I am not interested in alleviate the suffering of someone else. I'm leaving other beings alone because out of my own benefit or own purpose and attachment to that. And this, of course, is contrary to the Buddha Dharma, is contrary to the bodhicitta and bodhisattva vow. We leave other beings to themselves in their suffering. So real liberation and enlightenment is altruism and kind-heartedness, and we devote our life to it. It is, in essence, the path to Buddhahood. Maybe you know the Buddha. Buddha is the complete fulfillment of all the good qualities without any effort. That is what the meaning of Buddha. It is a complete fulfillment of all good qualities without any effort, spontaneous and natural. So for that also meditation and other methods. And we can meditate on equanimity, we can meditate and practice loving kindness, compassion and love. We can exchange ourselves with others, you know, Tonglen. And we can try to increase and accumulate all our merit and all our wisdom. We can have prayers, we can apply bodhicitta, we can be diligent. We have the 6 paramis, or the 10 paramis. We have the Noble Eightfold Path, the right speech, the right intention, and so on. So these are all meditation and methods to alleviate or to slowly have to fade away attachment to our own purpose. And then the miracle is that we become increasingly happy and content in our daily life. What we are searching by attachment has no effect of becoming happy, but creating the happiness for oneself and for others brings tremendous joy and bliss and happiness in our daily life. There's nothing to be afraid of. Okay. So this is the counterforce to, if we are attached to our own purpose, we do not have bodhicitta. And the last one is grasping arises if you do not have the view. I will make a beginning with that to 9:30. I think there's no time for meditation, sadly. But we can continue next week because there was the question on the nature of mind, the non-duality, the Dharma Dhatu, and so on. So I can continue next week with answering these questions related, or beginning with this fourth line, is grasping arises, you do not have the view. So in the previous line, we were discussing the relative bodhicitta. Here, if grasping arises, you do not have the view, means the ultimate bodhicitta. And maybe you know that the relative bodhicitta is trying and undertaking and developing oneself, as just explained. But the ultimate bodhicitta is, in essence, the suchness of reality, the sphere of reality, the ultimate nature of reality. And this, of course, is emptiness and clarity. Emptiness is the non-existence of phenomena, feelings, emotions, mental formations, body, and so forth, relationships, possessions, the politicians in the outside world, and so on. These are all belong all to relative existence because they are arising or for a while here and disappear. So the nature of reality is free from arising, is free from abiding, and is free from disappearing. The nature of reality, also the nature of our pure mind, but also the nature of reality in existence around us, and in me, physically, their essence is suchness. And suchness is not explainable. So it means there is an existence of a pure nature of the mind, but we cannot explain it. But the ultimate nature of mind, that it is free from arising, free from disappearing, and free from abiding for a moment. And this is, in as essential, the correct view that is mentioned here. If grasping arises, you do not have the view. So outer conditions, if we believe in them, and persons around us, or my ego, of everything that I've created in my life, of everything that I create in my daily life, arise from my mind. And when I do not really understand what is created by me, is nothing other than coming up, of arising, being there for a moment, and then disappearing. If I do not understand this relative reality, then I do not have the view. Right? Because we think in our daily life that everything is absolutely, truly existing. And I think that is a very common practice, even for very trained Buddhists or very wise person. It is a trap, an easy trap, that what is created by me is truly existent because I feel it, because I experience it, and because I know it. And because I feel it, and because I know it, and because it is coming out of me, it must be true. Yeah? It must be truly existent. And this is having the wrong view, because out of this wrong view, grasping arises. We've been talking about that last week, 12 links of dependent origination. But the mistake we make is that because it is created by me, it is truly existing and it will not change. And in this way, we are afflicted by karma, and we are conflicted by all kinds of disturbing emotions, because, yeah, this is me, and you deny that it is me, or you are not agree that is my opinion. So then defilements and disturbing emotions arise, and karma is created, and this is the cause of dependent origination. So this is one aspect of the wrong view, and the other aspect of the wrong view is that we do not understand, that we are not aware of, that everything that is happening, created by me, and everything in the world around me is created by causes and conditions. Everything that I produce as an opinion is created by causes and conditions. Maybe I've read the meaning in a newspaper, and then I use this meaning, this opinion in another discussion. Then it is not my opinion, but I took it from a newspaper. Very simple, too simple. But it is an example of everything we create, everything we experience, everything we observe is created by causes and conditions outside of us or in our mind. Is dependent origination. Or in other words, it is illusory. It is not really existing, but it is an illusion. So this is the incorrect view, and the correct view is also explained. It is suchness, it is nature of reality coming and going, beyond coming and going. There's nothing whatsoever to be found or to be discovered. It is the sphere of reality is ultimately suchness. And this is also the sphere of the Buddha nature. And this is called ultimate bodhicitta. So we can continue that next week. And as an so with this view, we will never be liberated from samsara. We will never enter into nirvana. We will never discover the experience and develop the qualities of the Buddha nature, because we do not have the right view. So and this is the returning cause of entering samsara again and entering and experience suffering and happiness in a constant flux of grasping and attachment and aversion. So His Eminence Chogye Trichen says here, we should actually constantly be aware of this process. Or in his words, we should never stray from awareness. We should never grasp or fixate on anything. So to realize the nature of the mind is we should never stray from awareness. We should never grasp or fixate on anything. Imagine our daily life would be different. It doesn't mean that we should that we must be ignorant, that we are not interested in what is the value of our life. It doesn't mean that we should not be interested in the good qualities that we have. And it does not mean that we should not enjoy the happiness and the good things of our relationships and our health and our possessions and whatever it makes us happy. It does not mean that we should dissolve it into emptiness, because this is called nihilism. It's nihilism. It does not exist, so I cannot enjoy my happiness because it is relative. This is nihilism. That makes us very depressed and makes our life meaningful without meaning. It means that we should search for happiness, that we should search for harmony in ourselves and others, that we should seek comfort in suffering, that we should enjoy everything in our daily life. Even in the highest tantra, it is of the Vajra, maybe Sue knows, is that we promise to enjoy our life in samsara, because this makes us happy. It is a result of our good karma, and we can use it for the benefit of others. But we should be aware that we should not stray away from awareness. We should never grasp or fixate on anything. That is the inner view and the inner attitude. And this also means that if we are happy, if we have good relationship or a wonderful holiday, so beautiful and so perfect, like paradise, something like that. And we have such a beautiful harmonious relationship with others. That we should, if we are aware of that it is not definite, that it is not permanent, then our happiness will increase in that moment, because we are aware of that it is not the ultimate state of happiness, because it can change any moment. And this awareness increases our happiness and our gratefulness and our joy, but also our patience, like the paramitas, towards others. Because we are happy and because we understand how joyful we can be of that, and how precious it is and how relative it still is, then it makes our happiness more intense, and we are also motivated to share it with others. Because only happiness, real happiness, has a consequence that we want to share it with others. If you don't want to share it with others, then it is grasping to our own purpose. So try also the middle. This, what I'm explaining, is the middle way. I'm not explaining it, His Eminence is explaining it. Rest in equanimity, try calm abiding, is also very good for finding some calmness in your daily life. And try to transform your mind slowly from the mind who it is to relatively is to the mind that is ultimately. And stop, if possible, stop all projections. All projections, all prejudices, all aversions, because they arise from ignorance, and they arise from grasping, and they arise from aversion. So stop producing opinions, if possible. But try as many times as possible. So deconstruct all appearances, that's what I've mentioned, and cease to grasp and try to understand dependent origination. Here it says, a dependent origination is the intrinsic reality of the mind. So dependent origination is the inborn reality of the mind. The mind is the intrinsic existence of the mind is being aware of dependent origination. Or the mind is just dependent origination. And this will reveal emptiness and clarity of mind and clear light, and then we can dwell in the nature of absolute reality. Because then we have the right view, and then there will no grasping arise. And finally, the greatest benefit of it, not the greatest, but the great benefit of it, that we are independent human beings, or independent. We have an independent mind. We are, because of this nature of reality and the suchness of reality, that means that all the grasping, like explained, will disappear or fade away. And this makes us independent of what happens inside in the bad way, and makes us independent of others. We are autonomous, an autonomous mind arising from the wisdom of ultimate reality. And that's why all the qualities of the paramitas and the loving kindness and the compassion and the equality will arise. This is only due or possible by developing the right view.